everybody. Welcome to Sisterhood Smart. Joining us back to demystify mental illness is our smart guest, Sherry Swiney. Welcome back, Sherry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Thank you for inviting me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad to have you back. So, Sherry, last time we talked, we actually left it off with the brain. Remember, we're having that conversation about the brain and how the brain works.
Yeah.
And so I think a good way to pick up this conversation is to kind of look at the root causes of mental illness relative to how the brain works. What do you think?
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. So to me, the question is, mental illness, does it really exist? Does it even exist? I'm not so sure that it does. And in fact, I wrote an article about that some time ago. I think it was in, I forget when it was, but let's see, hang on, let me find it. I think it was in 2019 that I wrote this article. So if you, I'd like to share that with your audience, if that's okay with you.
I have it here. I have the article. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So this is my article. It's kind of small, but that's okay. So if you can scroll down.
Can you see me scrolling?
Pardon me?
Can you see me scrolling down?
Yeah, I can see you scrolling down.
Okay. Let me know when to stop and when to continue.
Okay. So hang on a minute. Let me just I've got my own copy that I'm looking at because it's bigger.
Okay, great.
Oh, okay, so there's never been any proof that mental illness exists, yet the argument about mental illness continues to be a heated debate. You know, this goes on for way back when. This is an old argument that goes way, way back. So in this article, I cover all of those who questioned whether or not there was mental illness. So, but now today we have all the pharmaceuticals and all of that stuff that, say you got mental illness because you're not acting like a normal person. So medical scholars hypothesize mental illness as a result of natural causes, and there's little incentive to look elsewhere. As many of these scholarly individuals make an absolute fortune off of the backs of the unwitting sufferers from dangerous antipsychotic drugs they prescribe. Spiritualists claim mental illness is caused by evil spirits. Claims like this, even suggested that the science looks at it, is this is kind of crazy talk. So go ahead and scroll down a bit. Let me see. There you are. Okay. So, so then, and anybody can go to my website and get this article. It's real easy to find, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. But when you scroll down below the picture, I highlighted seeing or hearing things that live in different frequencies or other dimensions will be a point of interest for those who are open-minded enough, for the scholars who are open-minded enough to look beyond their physical dictates. So rather than be a diagnosis, it'll be a point of interest. There'll be a time when it's not out, it's kind of outside the norm right now for those people in the industry, but hopefully one day it'll change. So the theory of mental illness goes way back. It goes back to the cuneiform tablets in 2500 BC. We think that's the date, but who knows? Because we've been lied to so much about our history, we just don't know what the history is anymore. So in this article, I wrote down that it was 2500 BC when the earliest writings for the Chinese, Egyptians, Hebrews, and Greeks started talking about mental disorders being attributed to demonic possessions. In fact, there's information in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, that talks about Jesus casting out umpteen evil spirits from people. And then later on, there was Hippocrates and Pythagoras and Aristotle and Plato that considered mental illness was caused by natural, not supernatural means, though these natural means were unknown to them. So that's how this whole thing started. Anyway, so you can keep scrolling down. I've got a little bit about each person that was on the side of mental illness is a spiritual illness, and it's other than an organic something that goes wrong with your brain, an organic damage to your brain. I don't think there's any mental illness. So these are people. You can keep scrolling down. These are people that kind of agree with this, and there's a link to each of those people. That a person who wants to do the study can go ahead and read up on it. Some of these names will be real familiar to a lot of people, but some won't. So then, so we get down to, we had Bud Hopkins, we have Dr. Jerry Shaler, and then we have, there's a little video here that he talks about the fraud that's being put upon the people. And then we've got the Dr. Slate, and then we've got Dr. Imark, he's a friend of ours from Turkey, and he's a research guy. And so when we ended up with Jerry Marzinsky, who you just recently had on the show.
Jerry, yeah.
So then what I'm saying here is label jars, not people. That's the thing that this society loves to label people. That's really, it's really a crime in my mind. They need to not, they just need to label jars. They don't need to be labeling people. So, and then I just covered the conclusion, my own conclusion, and what I've reached from doing all this study for myself, and then that branched out to studying mental illness in general. So, saying obviously drugs are not the answer, being aware that these are beings, are real, is a step in the right direction. So then I give a lot of examples and website links and so on like that. So there you have it. That's the article. You can just keep scrolling down till you get to the end. Oh, there you go. Okay. Little time lapse there. Okay, so that's the end of that article. And if anybody wants to read that, and if they keep scrolling, they'll find out more stuff about mental illness on this web page. Because the next one is called "The Myths We Know and Love." I don't know if you've got that on yours or not. But anyway, yeah. So that's a recommendation that I have for all of your listeners to take a look at this article. And we cover a lot of that in our book. That's found on the keyholejourney.com homepage. And if you want to look at that and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the picture of the book. Right there, yeah. So that's where our book is, and that's where anybody can get the book. They can also get it from jerrymarzinsky.com. This is one way to get it. And this will take you to Lulu, because Lulu actually doesn't steal so much from us like Amazon does, because Amazon just takes, they take most of the extra that's, yeah, we don't, as authors, we don't make any money. We just, cover our costs. So but with going through Amazon, we're hardly able to cover our costs.
And it's true what you're saying, when I've written a couple books myself, and it's usually, this is a service to humanity. You're not becoming a billionaire, No,
that's true. You're not. Yeah. So we're lucky to cover our costs.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's where people can get our book. Mm-hmm. And it's, we've gotten a lot of good comments on the book, and this is just my homepage here, so you can You can kind of watch that little screen in the front. That's just a scrolling thing that is kind of an introduction to the website and kind of what it's all about. And I think I mentioned to you last time that I used to run a prison reform group. Did I tell you about
Yeah,
that?
you mentioned it briefly, Sherry. We didn't really get into it. But
Okay.
when we had Jerry on, he touched on it a little bit. But I think you have different roles, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if you scroll down a little bit where it says we are continuing to evolve, and then we have the keyhole journey from 2014 to present. That's the one we're looking at now. And then we have from 2009 to 2014, and then it all started in 1996 to 2009.
Right there, the Patrick Crusade.
Right. So that was my first website when the organization was going full force. So there's a ton of information there, and any kind of student is welcome there. I think I put down that this is these 2 pages are no longer being maintained, but they're in the archives. And but these are, the first one is the 1996 to 2009. That has a tremendous amount of legal documents in it. There. So any kind of student of law can benefit from that. And then it switched over to the middle one from 2009 to 2014, where I retired from the prison organization and went a different way. And then that got retired, and I went an even different way. So we have 3 different websites.
Yeah. Sherry, I'm a believer that you don't have to just stick to one thing because you feel obligated to, yet the evidence is showing you that you need to shift direction and move gears. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And in fact, so this, if you go up to the top of the page, scroll up to the top.
Right to the top there?
Yeah, and then click on topics. Can you do that from where you are? Yeah.
Let me know. Is it looking good?
Yeah.
Okay,
so then,
awesome.
Yeah, so that has all this list of stuff that are covered on this website. So there's a cacophony of topics, and there wasn't enough room to do all of this in the menu, so I just made a menu page. So we have the stuff that's in blue. That has to do with Jerry Marzinsky's work and my work. We got testimonials, and I transferred all that stuff over to his site because he was using my site in the beginning. And so all of the stuff that's in blue is about his work and my work together. The rest of it is my own work. It's like collecting the research that I've done, so that if I ever need to go look it up or talk about it or something like that, I can just go here and click those things. So,
the reason why I clicked on this link, That's a Live program, for our listeners, this is what we talked about in our last show with Sherry. She really went into detail about how this program works, and she gave you some really simple steps to follow. You can do it yourself. So that's why I clicked on it.
Yeah. So if you can, I think I have That's a Live program there. That's the first one. So That's a Live program. And I just tell a story because that seems to be the easiest way to introduce what I'm talking about. I just tell a personal story about myself and what I did, because that's what a lot of people were asking me to do. It's like, write down something of, how you do this, what you did, and why did you do this, and so on like that. So that's why I did the That's a Live program. Then at the bottom of the That's a Live program, just scroll down to the bottom, there's a part 2.
Keep scrolling.
Yeah, keep scrolling to the end. And then go back up. So we have go back down. Okay, one more time. Okay, for more information, go to, scroll down to the next one. No, scroll down. Oh, okay, stop. So we have the update to 2618. So that's part 2 of the
Okay. So it's a
That's a
big,
Lie.
so
Yeah, that
yes,
one there.
so this
Yeah.
is the one you click on it. Okay. Okay.
So that's the
So I
one
just,
that goes into the science of the That's a Lie program,
yeah.
why it works, and how our brains actually. I think we talked about this on my first interview with you. How
Yeah,
the,
we talked about it, and that's why I just wanted to show them where they can find it.
yeah,
Although
yeah,
we did add the link in the description, because it's a very simple thing to do. And,
it is.
we had Jerry on, and he was talking about, um, the negative thoughts and everything. And he said it affects everybody. Not all your thoughts are yours,
It
And
does.
I
It
was
does.
telling him that it could be, how the most motivational speakers talk about negative self-talk or self-sabotaging behavior.
Yeah,
You know, this could be the foundation because, why would you self-sabotage yourself?
exactly. And see, we're born into this society that is already programmed to mess us up. That's the whole thing. So we don't know that we're coming in, and everybody's different. Everybody gets born into a different family and somewhere, a different place on the planet and a different culture and so on like that. But basically, the whole planet is programmed to keep us from knowing who we are. So when we come into this world, of course, our memories are erased for the most part, but there's this intuitive something in your heart and in your system that kind of tells you, okay, so something's not right. I don't know what it is, but something's not right. So right away, the movie Matrix comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, something's there and it's not right, but you don't know what it is. And so you go searching for it. A lot of people do that. Some people don't. Some people don't care, which is a big surprise to me. But that's how it gets perpetuated over the generations, over and over and over again. The last generation learned from the previous generation, and then we learn from the last generation. And so it's a whole thing of lies that keeps going forward into our psyche.
Yeah.
And if we don't know it,
No, when I asked you what are the root causes, because I think now you've touched on it. It's that
mhm,
you inherit the lie as well. That's a root cause, inheriting the lie and then passing it on to your children and children and children.
right. And society does the same thing. It's the society for the person, whatever society the person is in.
Mm-hmm.
They do the same thing. They picked up from the previous society, who picked it up from the previous society. And in the meantime, these negative entities are kind of messing with the strings and pulling the strings and kind of do well. Okay, so we've gone this far, and now it's ready to go to the next step of this big plan that they have. So here we are today, looking at the world, and it looks like, oh gosh, everything is totally upside down. Nothing works. I mean, what's going on here? Hopefully there's a lot more people seeing this and they're saying, well, what is going on? Because none of it makes any sense. And that's the idea, as far as I can see. If they can keep us totally confused, then we can't really think about what's going on. We can't really see what it is because, we've lost our intuition, and hopefully people are starting to get it back. It's a natural thing that we all have when we come into this world. We have this intuition, and they don't want us to have intuition. No way, because then we'll get smart. We'll get aware. We'll wake up, and they want to prevent that at all costs. I don't think they're going to make it though, because there's too many of us waking up. I mean, there's a whole bunch of us waking up. I look around the world and I look at the different groups that are talking about this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a wonderful sign. I don't care what level it's on. It can be on the political level. It can be on the environmental level. It can be on the tax level. It can be on the school level. It doesn't matter. People are starting
to matter. No, it doesn't matter.
People are starting to wake up. And that's a wonderful thing for me to see, because, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And nobody knows. Nobody's guaranteed the next day, but I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. I'm really feeling quite positive with what I'm seeing, even though it looks like a total mess to the unopened eyes, to those who are just paying attention to the 3D world. It really looks awful. It looks like we've got a really tough road to go before things get better, and that's probably true.
But I see what you're saying, because to me, when I look at the mess, I think it's kind of good, because it means I think people are just realizing this, and that's why it looks messy. It's like when you're clearing out, your closet, you're trying to get rid of the old clothes or the clothes you want to give away. Your bed looks like a big mess, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to sort through every garment and look at, okay, do I want to keep this? Why do I want to keep this? Who would benefit? Because you have to sort them, whether you're taking them to a men's shelter or a women's shelter. So I think the mess that we're looking at is people like opening the closet and letting the skeletons out and actually looking at it, and they're like, oh my God, but once it's cleaned out and people get rid of the old stuff, the stuff that doesn't really work, then we'll have a clean environment. That's how I see it, and that's
a good analogy. It's a good metaphor. Sure. And the thing is, some of the stuff that's coming out of that closet is pretty ugly. It's pretty ugly, as you know. And I don't really think I need to go into the details of it. I can if you'd like, but I don't know.
Could, because I think sometimes people are limited by their environment and the things that we know, obviously, because of maybe the work we do or our experience or the people we talk to, may not be information that a lot of people are privy to.
I can tell you what's going on here in the United States, and it's a mess. It's a total mess. It doesn't matter what subject you look at, it's upside down. It's really backwards, and it's being, they want to control every aspect of our lives. The trouble is, there's an awful lot of us who aren't going to go for it. We're not going to comply. We're not going to buy the bird flu is real, because we know that's false. We're not going to buy the travel ID thing, even if it means we can't travel anymore. We're not going to do it. And we're not going to buy into, they're trying to shut down the food chain. They're trying to kill off all of our farm animals because they think that they're carrying bird flu. It's like, give me a break. That's not even true. Animals do get sick on the farm now and again. It depends on how you're raising them. But when you have a sick animal, you just remove it from the herd. You don't kill the whole herd. That's what they're doing.
And also, that's not a very good principle to live by, because animals are also having their own unique experience.
Yes.
And you don't have the right to treat them like they're, in a way, you have to, this kind of ideology, like we just burn a forest. Like the forest is not having its own unique experience. The trees are alive. We know all this. So the same with the animals, like you cannot just decide I am just going to kill all of you because I feel like it.
You're absolutely right, and I agree 100%, because I'm very much into nature. I very much feel nature. I communicate with nature. It's been something that I've done since I was a child, even though I didn't know what I was doing, even though I was going through the brainwashing. They didn't touch that part of me, so I already had that. And so I'm like attuned to nature. I love nature. I love, even the insects.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I mean, a unique experience.
Yeah, the snakes and the spiders and all that stuff. I don't welcome them onto me to climb on me, but I'm understanding that they have their own existence, their own paradigm, their own job. They have a job. Like we all have. When I see something new, I'm thinking, okay, so what is your job? What I do, because I don't know. All right.
I know. Everything has a purpose, and there are no coincidences. You know, when a bird flies into your living room, I learned from some of our smart guests that too has a meaning. you know.
It does. It does. And in fact, the Native Americans have animal medicine cards that I learned about in the 90s. And so I was really taken with that because you do the card pull and then you look up in the book what that means, and then it depends on where it is and all of that stuff. It's telling you a story, and it's an observation of how these creatures, these critters, react in nature, what their natural propensity is. So if you watch them, and I lived out in the forest for like 3 years, and I really paid attention to all these animals that were in my area.
Mm-hmm.
That was in North Idaho, so it was pretty pristine back then, and so I was getting familiar with all the wild animals in that forest. They were fascinating to me. You know, I even paid attention to the ants.
Yes.
Watching how they do things. It's like, geez, you know, look at how they do this. You know, so really kind of, I was just curious and totally interested. So I guess they didn't mind showing me their stuff because I wasn't going to hurt them. I think they pick up those vibes. And I remember, in fact, I know they do because I remember having a very close encounter with a female moose up in that area. So I was digging and making a road by hand, and I was just seeing if I could do it. And that was back in my younger years. And so I heard this crash bang in the woods, and I thought, oh, it must be a deer. So I stopped digging because I didn't want to do any, sudden moves and scare them off. Well, here comes this moose. She was gargantuan. Her face was just so big. And she came to a skidding stop, and we stared at each other for a while, and I was resting my chin on top of my shovel, and I was thinking, okay, so I'm not going to smile and show my teeth because that might seem like it's an aggressive move. Okay. So I just thought to myself, okay, so no harm vibes. I'm sending no harm at all. No harm at all. So we stood there for maybe 30 seconds looking at each other. It was quite a long time. Mm-hmm. And then she turned her head back, and here comes her little baby right behind her. She just, she wanted to make sure it was safe to have her baby come out. And then they took off and went into the woods. I was so thrilled by that encounter. I mean, it was just that made my day. So I really love the nature, and I hate what the controllers are trying to do to it. They're just trying to destroy it.
Yeah, but I don't know, but is it, the lack of connection, and maybe, unless you've experienced these things, you don't think it's real, or you don't know it happens. And I think there's an element of that, where, or you've not seen somebody who's been through this or who has experienced this, because I know what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
When the animals do some stuff and you're like, oh, wow. I had a swarm of bees once. I was sitting in the garden and all these bees came to me, and I was like, oh, of course I knew, just be still, right?
Yeah.
Don't blink, just be still.
Right.
And at first they were just, circling me, and then they perched on me. They just came on my shoulders, and I was, it was summer. So they were literally on my skin, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And my two friends were just looking at me like they also knew not to move, right? Because these are bees. So we were all in freeze mode. And they just, circled around. But after a while, I just said, okay, I'm just going to, because they were not leaving. They stayed on my shoulder, my back, my hair. And after a while, they just left. And they didn't go to any of my friends, who are relieved, of course.
So you didn't get stung at all, right?
No, but then they just left. And now I'm kind of used to them. They do it all the time. And now I kind of know it. They'll just come and chill and then be on their way.
That's interesting. I've never had that encounter. But I have had some wonderful encounters with nature, even where I live right now, because I live out in the woods. Okay. And so I'm surrounded by trees, and I'm surrounded by my gardens, and I'm surrounded by, I have deer and fox and raccoons and groundhogs and, the neighbor's cat or the neighbor's cow every once in a while come over. So I have a lot of critters that come over here. And I've got hummingbirds, I've got lots and lots of birds, lots of crows, lots of ravens, I've got birds of prey and stuff like that they show themselves every now and again. Some of them are more often than others. So I'm looking at that from the Native American animal card perspective. Animal medicine card perspective, like, okay, so what are you telling me? If you come right across my path, if you're just out there, that's fine. But if you come right smack across my path, what are you telling me? So I always keep that in mind. And so I get this feeling like, don't forget spiritual law. Okay. Because maybe I'm thinking about something else, like, what a dumb show it was last night that the President Biden and would-be President Trump had this debate, and they left out the third candidate. So it's like, and they had such rules. This was by CNN, who is known to be a one world order type of news broadcast. So I never will listen to them. They used to be fine. Were never fine. None of them were ever fine.
I think everybody's kind of a little bit tired of the mainstream media because when you and we'll talk about media relative to mental illness, because I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes.
Because this is how I see media's role. You should tell all stories, not subjectively. You have to also tell good stories, because that will also uplift the society. It will encourage people to do good things because art imitates life. So you see the media being very selective as to what they share. They, sometimes the stories are a bit distorted. I know this about Africa. We've watched the most insane things shown, and we're like, that's not even the country you're reporting on.
Yeah.
And so over time, nobody really wants to, and then you hype up negative stuff in one little place. And meanwhile, around that community, everyone is gathering to help that community, but you don't show that, So that's, when you mentioned these mainstream media, I'm not surprised. But I think their role, how they're showing up in the world, has a role to play in the spike of mental illness, I think. If you're somebody who engages with media frequently, I think they're a little bit of a culprit. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, they're not only a little bit of the culprit, they are a major culprit. They're not the only culprit, but they are the major culprit, especially somebody who watches mainstream media and they don't know any different. They think that some of them still think that whatever they say on the mainstream media, that's the gospel truth. So trying to get these folks to see that that's not true is a difficult task. It can be done, I suppose. I mean, there's some of those people who were steadfast during the pandemic, saw then how all of us who were saying, don't take that. It's bad for you. It'll kill you. It'll do all this horrible stuff. It'll maim you. You'll have negative reactions. They didn't want to believe it because the mainstream media told them it's safe and effective, and that was a big fat lie. Now these people know that it's a lie. So that's a what do you call it? That's a what's the term? That's a pin in the cushion. I guess I don't know what to these folks who didn't know. They didn't know.
It's a rude awakening. So to speak.
Yeah. But there are some of them that they have such cognitive dissonance that this goes completely against their paradigm. They don't want to hear it. They'd rather just push it aside and let it stay there. Those people, I don't think there's anything we can do with them. But maybe eventually they'll wake up after they see the rest of the world waking up, maybe they'll do. And if the mainstream media were to come clean, which I don't think they will, I think they'll disappear before they come clean. That's just my opinion. And maybe they'll go over to some alternative media and pretend that, you know, they've got the goods now. We have to be aware of that stuff now. It's to the point now where we have to really be alert and discerning whatever's coming across the airwaves. You know, because now the bad guys, the controllers, the would-be controllers, they see this. They see that people are waking up, and they're like, okay, so what do we do about this? How do we get them back in the box? Oh, I know. Let's have the people who used to be CNN go do. We'll just take that idea and we'll make it an alternative news program a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you touched on something so important. You mentioned the word discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And this word is thrown around. Everyone says, I'm very discerning. But when we're talking about negative thought forms and entities, you're discerning. You also mentioned intuition. You know, you're becoming more intuitive, and you know, people need to really use their discernment. But now we also have these players, you know, the negative thought form guys. Mm-hmm. How are they influencing the discernment and the intuition? Because I'm sure you've had somebody tell you something and say, I'm using my discernment. Even the last 3 years, they were using their discernment, you know, when they went for, you know.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a tricky one.
It's a real intuition, you know, and this is why I question this discernment and intuition.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because that takes practice. It really takes, it takes effort. You don't just turn on your intuition and then go with it, because a lot of people don't even know they have it. So they get this little feeling in their gut, and then later on they did, and they ignored it. And then they're like, oh, I wish I had thought it. I wish I had listened. So, and I've been there too. After making some huge mistakes that I knew were bad mistakes, but I went ahead anyway. So that's why I understand how people are going through the stuff they're going through, because I've been there and I worked my way out of it. Not that I'm 100% out of it, because I don't claim to be able to discern everything, because I'm always learning. So the thing is, I don't know what I don't know. So I'm open to that. And I'm just like, okay, well, I know I don't know everything. So that's cool. I'm willing to learn, but don't feed me any bad information, because I'll hopefully know it. I'll do the research and then I'll figure it out, because that's my normal. I'm a researcher, and I like doing research. So a lot of people don't like to do that, but I do. And because I'm curious, and you know, the curiosity that's built into us has been erased for a lot of people. There's no longer any curiosity, because they figure, well, you know, there's nothing to be curious about.
Where did that thought come from?
Excuse me? Yeah, where did that thought come from?
Yeah,
that's the question right there. Because why? Huh?
Because when you're curious, you're going to get some answers.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We're nothing to be curious about because we know everything. Well, where does that thought come from? It doesn't come from you. It comes from these controller entities that want to keep you in this box. They do not want us to wake up as a species. We're destined to do that because that's what our soul wants to do. When we want to do it, I don't know. I mean, I know I want to do it as quickly as I can.
I know.
You know, as do a lot of people in my circle or in your circle, or you know, that kind of thing. That's fine, but I don't know how far we're going to go. I have ideas of what we're capable of, But I don't know if we're going to do this in my lifetime. Probably not, but probably in my granddaughter's lifetime, it'll probably happen if we stay on this course. But who knows what's going to happen? I mean, that's the big mystery. This could go right now. This could go this way or this way. We don't know yet. I have an idea that it's going to go first. It'll get really super bad and dangerous until enough people wake up and say, wait a minute, I didn't buy into this. This isn't what I came here for. And then things will start to change.
Yeah. And Sherry, maybe we can help people identify what kind of environment draws these people in. Sorry, not people, these entities in. What kind of environment do they thrive in? You know what I mean?
Well, as far as I know, they thrive in a different frequency than what we can see. Our eyes are designed to see a very narrow band of light spectrum. It's so tiny. It's like 1%, if that. It's like 0.00001 is all we see. That's how our eyes are designed. Even when we have 20/20 vision, we're unable to see that beyond that spectrum because we haven't evolved enough yet. Now, some people can see beyond that. That's very few. There's people who can see the energy around a being, or the energy around a tree, or energy around an animal, or energy around a pond, and so, but they're very, very few. And some of them were born that way. I met a woman who was born that way, and she thought everybody could see it. And that's what I hear most of the time. They think, well, everybody can do this. And then they're surprised to find out, well, nobody can do this, right? You're crazy.
Yeah, they think everybody can see it, or everybody can do what they do. It's so fascinating when you meet these really unique, beings. They're so funny.
Yeah, they are. And the thing is, okay, so she can do it or he can do it, and that means that it's possible.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a wonderful sign. It's a possibility to do that. And so what would it be like if I could see the energy around an individual? I would know if they're lying. I would know if they're sick. I would know if they're, if they're afraid. I would just know that stuff because of the color of their aura.
Yeah. And also, I think that's what the scientists who don't want to admit they don't know everything, I think that's what they call junk DNA. It's just DNA that is
it's been cut off or
beyond their comprehension.
Yeah, it's been shut down or something like that. Yeah. And but now I think some of that's starting to change. In a handful of people. So I'm looking forward to the day when it changes for a major portion of the people, so that even the ones who are sound asleep are no longer afraid. See, I think the biggest fear of humanity is death. Either that or disconnection from the Creator. One of the two. I mean, I'm not afraid of death because I know we don't die.
Yeah, I think the death fear, I think it depends on the culture you're from.
Mm-hmm.
Some cultures, they celebrate death because they know you're passing on to, they have a different understanding.
Okay, fair enough. But here in the United States, people are so scared to death, they let themselves become slaves just to prevent death. You can't prevent it. Everybody's going to die. So at some point, everybody's going to die. But our physical bodies die, but we don't die because our spirits are alive, and it goes on to the next level. Now, how can I say that? Because from experience, the spirit is an energetic being, just like the ones that are they're not just like, but they're analogous to the ones who are attacking us. So we have the spirit being, which is who we are. We're a divine being in this physical body. So we're having a physical experience with these divine beings, and we don't remember who we are, or what we can do, or what our capabilities are, or how powerful we are. So if we could start to remember, first of all, know that you're a divine being. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what corner of the planet you live on. You're a divine being in a physical body, having a physical experience on this planet. If we could get that through the heads of everybody to really sink in and, okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean to me personally? If people would just stop and think about that for 5 minutes every day, something would click in them and say, well, you know what? I kind of think I need to learn a little bit more or something like that. I kind of think maybe I should look into this. Maybe I should search around. If they do that, that's a good step forward. And then they have to be aware that the controllers know this is going on. And they have in their playbook something to counteract that, to lead the person in the wrong direction. So that's where a lot of gurus have fooled a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, Catholic priests have fooled a lot of people, and evangelists have fooled a lot of people. So we have to realize that, okay, this is within me. This is within me. And if I open up to it, I will get the answers, because universe will provide the answer. That's all there is to it. It takes dedication and it takes time. If you're at a 5 to 9 job, a 9 to 5 job, excuse me.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I know what you meant.
Yeah, if you're in a 9 to 5 job,
yeah,
you're too busy during that period of time to be thinking about, okay, I'm a divine being. But in the morning and at lunchtime and when you get home, you can spend a few minutes thinking about that. It doesn't mean you have to take 2 hours or whatever. But you can just kind of remind yourself, look in the mirror and say, you know what, they say I'm a divine being. Is that true? That's what you have to do. And don't look yourself down, because that's a downer for energy. You want to look yourself up in the mirror, because that enhances your energy. It's amazing how that works. Our energy field is really, really powerful. And so we can heal with energy. We can heal ourselves with energy. It's not an overnight success. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. But there is a healing that's taking place. If you want to open up your heart, open up your mind, you can do that through your thoughts, through your energy. You can look in the mirror and say, okay, I love you. And do I mean that? No. Oh. Well, let me try it again. I love you. Do I mean that? Maybe. But you got these horrible things that you did in the past and you can't be forgiven. Then you have to work on that. What if I could just forgive all that? Because the hardest thing to do for any individual is to forgive themselves of any bad things they've ever done. And believe me, we've all done really bad things. In this life or in a past life or whatever like that, we've done a whole bunch of things that we regret. Some of the things we don't even remember that we did. So we need to start forgiving ourselves. And once that actually happens, the door opens up so much more widely. I don't know if that's the way to say it. So it becomes a much wider opening.
Yeah.
To explore. And this is for people who want to explore. It's not for everybody. Hopefully one day it will be for everybody. Because in my studies, I've come across the ancient history of people that, not the mainstream ancient history, but the ancient history that others have discovered, and they've been shut down because we don't want the people to know that. We don't want them to know that they were once really involved and we came in and screwed that up. So that's a true story. as far as I can tell, from what I've seen and read in my research. So there was a time that we were really evolved. We knew how to heal each other through, energy and thought. We knew how to travel in space. We knew how to navigate the planet, not with gasoline. So we knew all that stuff. We knew how to build these gargantuan structures in such perfect design measurements that connected with every other structure on the planet. One has to stop and wonder, okay, how did we get to be so smart there? And look at us now. We're so dumbed down. We're so susceptible to, mental illness. We're so susceptible to mainstream media. We're so manipulative. We're easy to manipulate. Why is that? So if you start asking yourself those kinds of questions, you'll start getting some answers. And then you can kind of decide which way you want to go with that. Do I want to continue on this path? Do I want to research something else? What do I want to do? So that's when you have to look at your heart, your inside. There's, I don't remember if I said this on my last interview or not, so correct me if I have. There's a lot of science on the heart and how it has its own brain, and how it sends more to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. Now the brain, it automatically wants to give you an argument of, if you have an idea, it'll come up with an argument of, well, and maybe you really shouldn't do this way. Maybe you should do this instead, and kind of, back and forth, which is okay. But if you're going to make a decision, you really need to check in with your heart, because the heart feeds the brain a whole lot more than it feeds than the other way around. If you can get the two connected, that's the coherence of the heart and brain. And now there's evidence, there's scientific evidence that when there's a heart-brain connection, you can't get fooled anymore. You can't, it's be really, really hard to fool somebody of something. So that's, to me, that's a goal worth pursuing. And it would, if people who are suffering from mental illness, so-called mental illness, I don't really know how to tell them, other than if they have friends around who can talk to them about this stuff and ask them to, take a look at some of this stuff, because there really isn't a diagnosis of mental illness that's valid, unless there's some sort of organic damage to the physical brain.
Sherry, you've said a lot of interesting things that actually offer simple solutions. I know I kept using the word simple, and some say, Faith, it's not that simple, but it is simple, because you talked about recognizing that you're a divine being. But also, when you said this, I thought about, imagine, Sherry, if everybody recognized the divine being standing in front of them, how you would behave knowing you're a divine being in the presence of another divine being. Would you treat them in a way that is less than divine? Because
Absolutely not.
How the Bible says, act like you're in the presence of an angel, and people would be at their best behavior because they see the angel as a divine being, right? But now you said human beings are divine beings. So imagine if everyone really took that in and said, and realized every time you're in the presence of another human being, you're in the presence of what you revere, what you call divine, and you do that. You know what I mean? This is so powerful because it would shift all our behavior. The things people fight about, you wouldn't do it in the presence of an angel.
No, you wouldn't. You would have a discussion. You would have a difference of opinion, and that's fine.
You know what I mean? You do it respectfully.
Well, sure. And that doesn't mean that, emotions don't ever get riled up and people don't ever get excited. They just don't get angry about a difference of opinion. That's the main point, because I've been in some really deep conversations with friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't agree. I mean, it'd be pretty boring if everybody always agreed with you.
That's a healthy friendship.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
yeah.
and Jerry and I don't always agree. Okay. So,
No.
yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's what builds our friendship, I think.
Yeah.
So, my son and I don't always agree, so we still love each other. So, I mean, hey, that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm going to come over to his way of thinking or he's going to come over to mine. We might end up talking it out until we come to a third opinion that's like, oh, that's something interesting to think about. So there's a lot of people not a lot, but there's a handful of people on the planet that are doing that. They're actually thinking about, okay, what kind of future do we want to build here? Do we want the same? Do we want all the same things? Are we going to go that way? I don't, geez.
I know, geez, really?
Why? Why? Why in the world would we ever want to do it this way? No, I know me. That's not my, no, I don't want to do that. I don't understand people who do want to do it, other than I understand the controllers want to do it. But why do the divine beings on this planet want to do this? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that is so limiting. That would be, like you said, how boring would that be? Imagine the beauty of, we're enjoying the beauty of diverse creativity. Even the home you live in, it's different because that's what you like,
Yeah.
It's, I get what you mean. That would be extremely boring. And when you mentioned the heart as like a first or second brain, or working, very closely with the brain, I couldn't help by thinking about when, how the statement we grew up with, that don't think a thing to death. And that, and that comes a lot for anyone listening, and you want to start something. Your brain, like Sherry described it, is going to give you all the reasons why it wouldn't work, but you have no proof it wouldn't work. Or it will tell you have this business, a 500-page business plan, which may never play out. But the heart kind of calls you to do something. And when you move from the heart, this is my experience, you usually have no regrets, even if it doesn't play out how you expected it to, because it came from the heart. Usually it's a very fulfilling experience.
Because the universe doesn't do things to you. It does things for you. So the question is, what did I learn out of that whole episode? Was it, what was the universe doing for me through that? That's kind of a new way of thinking. Well, it's not really new, but in this generation, it's a new way of thinking. If we know that, okay, so when we arrived here, we didn't arrive with the spirit of fear. We didn't arrive with the spirit of, opposition. We didn't arrive with any of that stuff. It had to be taught to us. Because when we arrived here, most of the time, we're a blank slate. We don't know anything. We're just, we're here. We're still connected to spirit, so we can know things, but we can't articulate it because we're just this little bitty baby. Okay, but we have all this stuff inside of us, and of course that gets knocked out of us almost right away. Because from the age of 0 to 7, we're in this hypnotic stage. I think Bruce Lipton calls it a hypnagogic stage. It's like being in a hypnosis type of existence. So that's how you learn. That's how we learn how to speak our language and what the rules are and all of that stuff. So, and that's what I go into in part 2 on the That's a Lie program to kind of explain, how did this all happen? Well, it's not that difficult when you get into the biology of it. So this is not woo or extreme woo-woo. It's none of that stuff because it's all biologic. That it is, and so I show that in part 2. So where was I?
No, we were talking about the brain and how the brain and the heart and how they're connected in
Thank you.
what you receive.
I kind of got off track there and forgot where I left.
No, I love it. There's a different thing. What people call off track in the African culture, we say spirit is talking through you.
Okay, and I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and the message had to come through.
That's true, isn't it? That's so true. And I'm not used to saying, well, spirit's telling me that. I don't feel it.
Yeah. Because sometimes you can see someone going off topic, what people may call off topic, but we don't interfere or interject because somebody who's going to listen to this, in the spiritual realm, in African culture, we believe there's no time and space. So they anticipate different timelines. So someone ahead in the future needs your message. So
that's wonderful. That's so accurate. I love that. We don't teach those things here in the United States.
Yeah, that's why I don't interject, Sometimes people, I notice Westerners say, oh, Faith, should have been back in topic. I'm like, no, she was on topic.
Yeah, right. Well, I was. Yeah. Okay.
Not just you, any other guest, because I can tell when spirit is bringing in an urgent message.
Yeah, and that's something that everybody needs to know, by the way, how our biology gets us into this particular conundrum here, because it is a conundrum unless you're in the particular really awakened family, or you're in a country that doesn't do time and space, or whatever like that, who have a history of spirituality that we don't have in the United States. So I don't think it's just the United States. It's probably, like Canada. I don't know about Mexico, because Mexico is pretty spiritual as far as I can tell.
Oh, Mexico is very, very, very spiritual.
Right. So you're not, you might say stuff that might to your American mind sound just a little bit quirky kind of thing. But the Mexicans, they're like, no, this is the way it works. So yeah, I grant that to them. So I don't know if...
Yeah, it's kind of the linear straight lines, linear thinking. And there are thousands of African proverbs or sayings about living like the waves of the water, related to water.
Right.
Going against the current, going with the flow of things, just referencing water.
Interesting point. Mm-hmm. The waves of the ocean, are they moving, or are they just going up and down? They're just going up and down. If you do a pebble in a pond, the waves seem to be going out like this. But if you measure it, it's just going up and down. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm saying this is because we keep thinking linear. Everything is linear, and it's not. I mean, that's our perception, is everything is linear, and it is not linear. There are some American scientists and polymaths and stuff like that have talked about this, but I don't know how popular they are. Maybe they're growing in popularity at some point. But they bring up the idea that right. Well, so we're entangled in this physical body. So there's not a place where our soul is. I mean, some say it's down here. Some say it's up here. Some say it's up here. So it doesn't. It's entangled throughout the whole body. I think that may be why, for example, you hear of amputees. I had an aunt who had her leg amputated, and she told me that her phantom, she could feel her leg that was gone. They call it phantom pain.
Yeah.
So she could actually feel it. And I was, it's like, okay, so let me just see if there's energy there. And, kind of went like this where that leg used to be. And I could feel the energy. So there's still an energy flow. out where that leg used to be. That's just so fascinating to me. And I assume that's the kind of the normal thing that goes on, because we are energetic beings. So, yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way until I had that experience with her.
Yeah, yeah, we are, and now knowing that there is no diagnosis, I put it in parentheses because there is. If you Google it, something will come up. But we had the conversation with Jerry where he was going through what a diagnosis is and what it actually involves.
Right.
If it's biochemical, you have to run tests and all this stuff. Listen to his interview; it's really enlightening. But when we go to the mental illness and the qualities of these negative thought forms and entities, you call them entities, or Jerry called them archons.
Jerry calls them what?
Archons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think he called them archons.
Yeah, I like to call them archons too, but I still call them entities.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about how they're able to hack humanity's thoughts? They're affecting all human beings. How are they able to hack our thoughts?
Well, they are energetic beings. They live in a different frequency than we do. That's why we can't see them. But if we could see them, we would know when they're attacking. But we can't see them, so we don't know. And they're because they know they can't be seen, they're very stealthy. So they can, as energy can go through, our body, go through our thoughts and attach to our energy field on the outside, which is probably where they are. I don't think they go. Some say they go into the mind and into the body, but I really think it's more like they're attacking the energy field outside of us that we also can't see, most of us, because disease or malfunction typically starts at the outer edges of the aura, which is coming from the environment. So this is kind of what Bruce Lipton talks about when he talks about how our DNA isn't a one-way street. It doesn't just, it can be reprogrammed. People don't know that yet. It's all scientifically proved. It's in the papers. They just haven't put it in the schools yet to teach people. So they're about 40 years behind, which is, from what I've seen, is about how long it takes for new technology to come out to the public, which is really a crying shame because there's a lot of people that have been trained in universities taking biology, and they still think that, you're doomed by what your DNA has, and that's not true. That's not true at all. So what is true is that you can reprogram your DNA as long as you know that that's what it's a read-write system. For those who like to do computer stuff, it's not only a read, it's a read-write. So we can override it. And the way we override it is it's programmed by our outside environment and then what we do with it. So if we have an outside environment that's really, really bad, and we continue to be afraid of it, or we continue to get nervous about it, we'll get stressed over it, we'll make ourselves sick. But the DNA didn't do that. The DNA followed our instructions. So that's really interesting to me. And so for the most part, we're all in charge of our DNA. We just don't know it because it hasn't been taught to us. Unless you jump in and do the research, you'll never know it until it gets into the schools. And by then, most of us will be old and walking with walkers, so, and our children will probably learn it if they have schools by then. So I'm getting to the point of it's kind of all mixed together because everything is connected to everything. So what I'm trying to get at is right here, right now, the people on this planet need to open their eyes, smell the coffee, say, wait a minute, I don't want this. I didn't buy into this. What the heck is this? And what can I do to change it? And the way to change it is to go inside. You can't change somebody else. I've already learned that lesson the hard way. You can't do it. You just can't do it. If they don't want to change, they're not going to change. Okay? But you can change yourself if you want to. We have control over that. Unless we've been in a mind control program, and even then, because I was mind controlled, you can get out of it. That just takes extra work. Many of us are mind controlled through the television and the radio and the poisoned food and all the mainstream messages and the schools and the hospitals and the churches, and everybody's kind of exposed to this brainwashing, subtle as it may be. So there's a brainwashing program. You've heard of MK Ultra, for example, and there's subtle brainwashing programs like society, schools. They're not so subtle anymore. There used to be some subtle brainwashing programs. So now, hopefully, people are seeing through this stuff, and they just want to know, do I really want this in my life? Do I really want this future to be the way that I'm seeing it going? So we're all in the same boat, and it's either going to go down or it's not. So
that's a perfect place to end this, Sherry. That was we should just end it there. That was
okay.
Yeah, that's the perfect place.
I agree. That's a great place to stop it. And
that's a beautiful way to stop it, because if there's so many things you have also said that can help. That just seals this properly. You're a divine being. You can do it. You just have to make a choice, and your DNA is responding to the energy that is around you, that feeds you, that you produce, that you emit. It's all put together, really.
Yeah, and that is all, as far as I'm concerned, that is all for us. That's like a gift from universe, or the creator of life, the source of life. Mm-hmm. That's for us to learn, okay, I'm the one that's in control of myself. Nobody else. So, I'm the one that has to make the decision for myself and nobody else. When I see the clips on on YouTube or the news about these people who they're stuck in their paradigm, and they think that everybody else should believe that paradigm, and if you don't, you're a terrorist. Give me a break, okay? No, I don't agree with that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that. No, thank you. You can go ahead and be that way if you want. Have a great time. But don't demand that I do it.
I'm laughing because I smell accountability, because you will be accountable for your actions. So before you do stuff,
yeah, really,
you have to really think about it. You'll be accountable to yourself and also to the person you did it to. Mm-hmm. Because we are spiritual beings. So you're looking at the physical body, but there's more to these beings. There's more to Sherry seated in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm laughing because I know people like to run away from accountability. You have to do as I say. My way or the highway.
Yeah, it's our way or the highway, man.
And the highway is leading over the cliff.
No kidding. And there's no stop sign to warn you that the cliff is ended. You just got to run off the cliff, and that's the end of that.
It's a one-way road. And you're like, guys, it's a detour.
That's right. So let's hope that we don't take that road, okay? I don't want to take that road.
No, we are not taking that road.
We don't
need to hope, Sherry. We are not taking the road.
No, we're not taking that road. And they're not going to kill our farm animals because of climate control or climate change or whatever those memes are. That is baloney. Please get that through your head. Just tell them no. And if enough of us say no, they'll have to walk away.
Yeah, and Mother Nature is more. She's stronger than they think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wouldn't go down without a fight. She's a great adversary. Let me put it
sure.
that way.
Yeah, for sure. That's true. That's very true.
So, Sherry, thank you so much for coming. To all our listeners, thank you for stopping by. Today's guest was our smart sister, Sherry Swiney, and we were demystifying mental illness. We also talked about some very, very, great topics related to the body, the brain, the human anatomy, consciousness, and all this information will be in the description based on, the topics we discussed today, as well as Sherry's work and her background. So make sure to take a peek, stop by, and, click on the links. We also had a presentation in the beginning of this conversation for those of you who want to know how to navigate the website. So, Sherry, I'll let you have the last word, and then we can head out.
Last words. Okay, so last words are, I would say, believe in yourself, believe in your heart, and trust that that you do have the answers within you. If you're new to this and you've never heard of this, just kind of give it a try. Sit quietly. You don't have to get into any meditation or any of that kind of stuff. Although that's really helpful for you. But if you don't, that's okay. Just contemplate. Be somewhere that it's comfortable, whatever that is to you, and then contemplate. You can do it however you want to do it. Just think. Just open your mind and let it flow. See what happens. See what happens.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for coming. Until next time, goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.